Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Marilyn Manson case update. I've been taking a little bit of a break from this. I haven't really been covering the stories and the allegations as they've been developing, but I'm back on it now. And recently we talked about the salacious text messages that were revealed between Marilyn Manson and Johnny Depp, and the fact that they uncovered a possible police report as well as restraining order between Marilyn Manson and his now wife, Lindsay. But that is not where the updates stop. So today, what we're going to be talking about are the comments that Evan Rachel Wood made about Amber Heard, and if that means she has taken a side in the Depp v. Heard trial and case. And we're also going to be talking about some of the interviews that Amy Berg, the director of Phoenix Rising, gave over the last couple of months, and just seeing if they have anything interesting to say, what they have to tell us about the production of Phoenix Rising, especially because Phoenix Rising is now part of a lawsuit. So let's start with Evan Rachel Wood. She recently came under fire for a series of Instagram stories she did where she was sharing an article reporting on the findings of Bot Sentinel, a nonpartisan group dedicated to uncovering and exposing online bots and how they're used. The portion that Evan shared did include a section that was talking about the defamation trial between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, but it also discussed how similar events are already transpiring against actress Evan Rachel Wood, who has accused ex-partner Marilyn Manson of abuse, among other comments. Evan did not add any of her own additional text or commentary. She was just sharing portions of the article. But that did not stop news outlets from running with headlines like Evan Rachel Wood supports Amber Heard in Depp trial and things of that nature, despite the fact that the portions of the report she was sharing was also talking about her own case. Now, as you might know from my prior videos on this subject, Evan Rachel Wood has been adamant for years that she will not comment on Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp. She does not want to give her opinion and has not. Also, there is zero evidence that her and Amber Heard are friends in the way that so many different media outlets like to repeat. And so with that in mind, naturally Evan did fire off a couple of additional stories responding to these headlines. Dear press, I know you are just chomping at the bit to say I am supporting one over the other. But if you actually did your research, you would find that 6 years ago, I said I would not comment on the abuse allegations, and I still have not. Here is what I actually said in 2016. No, I said I won't comment. And in a pair of deleted stories, she also shared, quote, "Oh, look, a photo from 2015 that keeps circulating trying to prove something," when in actuality this photo was taken at an event honoring my stylist, who also styled JD. I arrived alone and was seated at this table. With certain logic, everyone who was seen in a photo with Weinstein would have to be a rapist. And with certain logic, I guess all these people must support abusers too, right? Of course not. Now that we cleared that up, please stop sending me death threats. And this is where the internet really went off. You had some people saying that Evan was comparing Amber's actions to Harvey Weinstein and that that was a good thing and meant she supported Johnny. You had other people saying, oh my gosh, it's horrible. She's comparing another survivor to Harvey Weinstein and basically calling her a rapist. That's awful. I can't believe she would do that. And then you had my interpretation, which is somewhere between or in the middle of all these things, where I just thought she was saying, Jesus Christ, can you people just stop sharing this photo from 2015 that doesn't prove anything, doesn't say anything. I went to that event alone, and saying that proves something is just as ridiculous as saying anyone photographed with Weinstein is actively supporting an abuser. And I'm not sure where the truth exactly lies, but and this might be my own bias, I'm pretty sure it's more like that last one than any of the other two. Now, do I personally think she was saying that Amber Heard is as guilty as Harvey Weinstein? No, I don't think so. I think it's maybe more accurate to say she was comparing the public perception of them, and that people see Amber Heard and Harvey Weinstein as similarly guilty, and that if you're in a photograph with them, it would prove something about what you believe or who you support in a way that just doesn't really make sense in reality, and especially with Hollywood, where people go to events together and get seated together, but maybe don't even really know each other. Now, could it be the case that she does really see Amber Heard and Harvey Weinstein as similar, and she thinks that Amber Heard is actually guilty? Like, that could be a possibility. She could be backtracking. She could be just trying to not get the internet to hate on her any more than she's already experienced, but we won't really know for sure. And as she's kind of pointed out, like, you're either gonna believe her or not, and the narrative is going to be twisted in any direction that you happen to find convenient. But because people couldn't really let this go even after she said all of that, she had one final thing to say later after going private on Instagram. I never compared the two. I was implying pictures don't prove alleged, quote, conspiracies. I was trying to call out internet propaganda. It's sad and disheartening that people choose to manipulate the truth in order for more harassment to continue. And from what I recall seeing at the time, I don't think that harassment is an inaccurate way to describe what happened. There were several high-profile Instagram and Twitter accounts that were calling out Evan Rachel Wood for what they saw as throwing another accuser under the bus, smearing a good woman's name in order to raise up her own profile and just sort of avoid suspicion and not wanting to be associated with her. And that Weinstein comparison was totally inappropriate and disgusting, and they just could not believe she did this. And I do think it is important that we call out people for bad behavior and for hurtful comments, especially if they're made maybe not like realizing their implication, just sort of being like, hey, like, did you mean this? Did you intend this? Like, do you want to correct what you said? But that's not really what happened, and the original tweets and comments themselves might not have been harassment, but a quick look at the quote tweets and the retweets and the comments and everything else that led from that certainly did go in a more harassing direction. And I think that Effie, one of the main accusers against Armie Hammer, who came out around the same time as Evan Rachel Wood did, I think hit the nail on the head when she talked about this in her Instagram stories. Quote, I'm appalled by some of the criticisms I see people throwing at Evan Rachel Wood because of the comments she made yesterday. Evan Rachel Wood is a survivor who's helped pass laws which help victims and is in the middle of a criminal investigation against her abuser who is suing her, all the while getting constantly bombarded with threats, harassment, and slander, all of which takes a huge negative psychological and emotional toll on a woman who's already been through hell and has a child to raise. Her only job is to heal from her trauma. Who the fuck do you think you are to feel entitled to make demands on her about what you want her to say or not say and how to say it? For people who are not going through what she's going through, who have never helped pass laws that help survivors, to sit there and toss criticisms at her and to have the audacity to call her spineless and such is so beyond tone deaf and disgusting. Leave her alone. If your proclaimed support of Evan Rachel Wood is conditional and based on conditions you've made up in your head about what you believe should qualify a rape victim of being worthy of your support, such that she's not allowed to say anything you don't like, and that she has to support whoever you want her to support, and that she has to say things when and how you want her to say them, despite everything that's going on in her life, then do you actually support survivors? Or have you just found more ways to try to control women to behave how you want them to behave? And as I've already said, I do think it's good to call people out for negative behavior, even as survivors, if they are harming others or making statements that put down other victims. And I think there is a line between that and what Evan Rachel Wood was experiencing. It wasn't just critique. It wasn't just a call in to say, hey, do you want to think about how you said this? It was people assuming and twisting her words to mean something she didn't intend, and then like bashing her over the head with them over and over and over and over again. And it really felt like people dogpiling on someone just for the sake of it, just to sort of shame and guilt someone for not saying the exact right perfect thing and agreeing with what they all thought that she should say. And people are complicated, okay? People can look at the same set of facts, the same evidence, and come to different conclusions. And if she has said multiple times over years that she is not going to comment on something and has not commented on it, I really think we should respect that. But in any case, I really do hope this is the last we hear about this issue, because it really doesn't matter in the long term. Like, the Depp Heard case is over. She's in the middle of her own lawsuit. Like, why are we focusing on this? Let's move on to bigger and better things, more important things at least, now that we've gotten that out of the way. So, speaking of that, let's talk about the Phoenix Rising documentary. As we've talked about before, the director of Phoenix Rising is Academy Award nominee Amy Berg, who is most well known for her previous documentaries covering things like the sex abuse scandals within the Catholic and FLDS churches, as well as sex abuse within Hollywood. She is currently co-directing a miniseries called Keep This Between Us about the grooming epidemic that is happening in U.S. high schools. So clearly her career is very focused on covering things like sexual violence against children and sexual abuse in general. And so I think that does lend credence towards her opinion as someone that is very used to making documentaries like this, knows the process legally as well as personally, what happens when you're covering subjects like this and people who maybe don't want to be talked about in documentaries. And I just wanted to dive into some of the interviews that she gave while making Phoenix Rising, and then like after its release primarily. So originally, if you guys don't remember, Phoenix Rising was originally just supposed to be about the process of fighting for the Phoenix Act. But over the course of making the documentary, things evolved, and then it turned into also naming Marilyn Manson as Evan Rachel Wood and several other people's abuser. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because there's been so many accusations leveled against people who participated in this documentary, that they're doing it to make money, that they were recruited and they lied on camera, or they're just vengeful exes that are mad they're no longer with him, or they're just trying to smear his good name in order to kind of get their star raised in Hollywood or whatever. And you'd think if that was the case, this would be a very tightly controlled production, that the people involved would be very careful and very particular about what was being said, how they were being presented, always making sure they're like totally made up and just like putting their best foot forward because they're using this to get ahead, right? And from what we can tell from an interview that Amy Berg gave, that might not have been how things went. We had incredible access, she said. Evan, when she does something, she does it all the way. We did it in a way that was very familiar. She did her own makeup there. It wasn't a kind of celebrity experience in any way. And to me, that doesn't sound like how a hungry starlet who's trying to manufacture a story out of whole cloth would act when they are trying to get ahead using a documentary. But that wasn't the only interview that Amy Berg gave around the release of Phoenix Rising. In fact, she also spoke with Newsweek after Marilyn Manson had filed his defamation lawsuit against Ilma Gore and Evan Rachel Wood. Now, neither she nor HBO were named in the lawsuit because, according to Howard King, who is Marilyn Manson's main attorney, they saw her and HBO as like fellow victims of Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore. Like, they were like lured in and like sold a story that really wasn't true, and like it's not their fault, and so they're not included in the lawsuit. But that didn't keep Newsweek from asking her opinion about the lawsuit, and this is what she had to say. When asked for her response to these claims, Berg told Newsweek, quote, "There were a lot of lawyers that looked at every single second of this film and every frame. So I don't know, like, what else we could do. Our film is completely legally sound." And that's all I can really say about that. And that is the tricky part about making allegations against someone in public, be that a documentary or a newspaper editorial or anything else. You can have a whole team of lawyers check through everything you're saying, all of your evidence, every word you say on that page, and just because it gets their approval doesn't mean you're not going to be sued, because this is America, baby, and as long as you've got the money, you can civilly sue just about anyone you feel like. And that is why Evan Rachel Wood is taking this approach of trying to file an anti-SLAPP motion against the defamation lawsuit, and we're going to talk about that very soon, I promise, in another episode of this. But I just really want to emphasize that Amy Berg is an experienced documentary maker. She has made documentaries making claims against some of the biggest institutions in the entire world, like the Catholic Church. So I would like to imagine that she is familiar with the process of legally checking a documentary, of knowing what's okay to include or not based on the evidence that you do or don't have, and that she just, like, as the director, wouldn't advise, like, throwing caution to the wind and just, like, releasing something that they didn't have evidence to back up or they couldn't defend in court, because I think they had to know that they were probably going to be sued if they made this. Like, Marilyn Manson is involved in a lot of lawsuits. Like, it's just like they had to know, they had to anticipate there was at least the possibility this would result in a lawsuit. And, like, I just can't believe that they would just, like, make something and be like, oh, we didn't think we were going to get sued for this. They're not YouTubers. They know better than that. They're not like, you know, people online who go, oh, wow, I didn't know I was, like, legally obligated to disclose if I had a sponsorship or an affiliate code or not. Like, no, they're more experienced than that. They know better than that. They had to know that a lawsuit was coming. And, like, if they knew a lawsuit was likely to be in the works, like, why would they set themselves up for failure in court by not having information or an argument to back up what it is that they said in the documentary? So I just find it really hard to believe that someone like Amy Berg would just, like, have the wool pulled over her eyes and not be able to tell, like, legit evidence from not, or, like, what could get her sued or not for making a documentary. So I don't know. But that is not where things stopped, because actually when it came to making the Phoenix Rising documentary, things got pretty weird for a moment. Even though Marilyn Manson's attorney, Howard King, said that he thought that Amy Berg and HBO were actually also victims of Evan and Ilma, she still experienced some really weird things since working on that project. Quote, "There's a lot of online stalking in that world, the Brian Warner world, so we had to take a look at that. Anything you can mention specifically that you did regarding the online stalking?" "I can say that I started receiving horror films in my Amazon account that I wasn't ordering, and so I had to up security with that. One of the things we heard about while we were making this film was that people would just receive mysterious packages at their houses that they didn't order. So I still don't know if that was him or anything, but I had to do double security. I definitely was not ordering like 10 horror films between midnight and 6 a.m. And while this could obviously be a weird coincidence, or someone else, literally anyone else on the planet besides Marilyn Manson or his associates, hacking Amy Berg's Amazon account, I do want to highlight that she said this happened. I don't know what message it sends to spam someone's Amazon account with horror movies between midnight and 6 a.m., but whatever message that was, they went ahead and sent it. And yeah, I don't really know what to make about all of that, but I hope that included some interesting tidbits about the production process behind Phoenix Rising and some of the opinions that were given about the legal proceedings and other things going on related to that documentary. And those are all of the updates that I have for now. We're slowly working through all of the backlog of updates and things to get through, and I hope that you all appreciated this. I hope this helped clear up if you had any like misunderstandings or misconceptions about Evan Rachel Wood commenting on Amber Heard, because if you were just going from the headlines, you would have thought that she put out an Instagram story where she said, I believe Amber Heard is a horrible abuser and a rapist, and I believe Johnny Depp. And that's not really what happened. You can infer whatever you want from what she said, if she supported Johnny, if she was denigrating Amber, if she was just fed up with the whole mess. Again, you can really twist anyone's words online into kind of whatever you want them to mean. And that's really all I have for updates for now. We are going to be going over the lawsuit very, very, very soon. I promise. It's so much to go through. It's so many pages, hundreds and hundreds of pages. And every time I keep writing something, there keeps being more, and it's this never-ending pile of stuff to go through, and I'm trying my best to stay on top of it. So if you want to make sure to not miss out on any of those future updates or going over the lawsuit, please do subscribe, because I make lots of videos talking about Marilyn Manson. Not all the time. I am also primarily a BDSM and kink educator, but if you guys do also enjoy that, bonus for y'all. Any comments, questions, thoughts, anything else, you can put in a comment down below. And finally, if you really enjoyed this, if you want to support what I do, the best way you can do that is with Patreon. A link to that will be down below. If you do already support over there, thank you so, so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you all next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.